Bluefish, Chapter 5. Roscoe. The word tore up from Travis's gut, burning through his chest, but he couldn't get any sound out. His voice caught in the back of his throat, strangling him, keeping him trapped in the dream. The trees on the path to the swamp wavered and morphed and became the crowded hall of Russet Middle School. A whiff of warm, dense smell let him know Roscoe was close, weaving among the sea of legs and sneakered feet. He scrambled behind, trying to catch up. Grandpa stepped in front of him, laughing, and blocked his vision. Travis shoved, and Grandpa flew back. His head bounced off the lockers, and he crashed to the floor. Blood came out of his ears and trickled down his neck. Suddenly, the hall was empty. No kids, no dog, no smell. Travis's voice finally came out in a squeaky whimper, waking him. His heart hammered, and he lay there, sweaty and shivery, alone, no warm, stinky dog weight at the foot of his bed. A soft light shone through the yellow towel he'd stapled around the curtain rod. Cool fingers of breeze stretched through the half-open window, and the birds hollered a racket outside. The house was quiet. Grandpa left early for the bakery on Saturdays. Travis got dressed, opened the front door, and looked out on the day. 5 houses in view, all with their empty eyes looking back at him. He grabbed a jacket and a day-old muffin, took a right out of the driveway, and headed away from town. He took another right, turning onto a narrow asphalt road with no center line. By the time he finished the muffin, the houses had thinned out and dropped off to nothing. No cars either, just his feet scuffing along the gravel shoulder. Cornfields stretched on either side of the road. Travis hadn't gone for a walk since they'd moved, unless you counted his run away from school. That day he'd been on the same not thinking place he went in a fight. No planning or figuring or feeling. Sometimes his body just did things on its own. Like in the dream when he shoved Grandpa. The pain and panic of letting Roscoe slip away through the crowd had been so real. Not the everyday dull tooth chewing on his chest, but sharp like the morning cold where the sun hadn't touched yet. If only he had taken Roscoe with him that morning a few weeks ago. Stay, he'd said, knowing he was more likely to see the fox pups if Roscoe wasn't along. Roscoe had flopped in the driveway and watched him go, sad-eyed, and Travis hadn't even seen the pups, just a few chipmunks and a woodpecker. On his way home, he'd given the high-low whistle, expecting Roscoe to come trotting along the path. He hadn't, and when Travis came out of the woods, the truck was gone. That's when his stomach got nervous. Roscoe never went anywhere without him or Grandpa, and Grandpa never took Roscoe anywhere except to the vet. He went inside and shuffled around the house, looking out windows and waiting. Lunchtime came and went without a phone call. The truck finally pulled up in the driveway late in the afternoon, and Travis ran out to the front porch. "Where's Roscoe?" he asked as Grandpa got out of the truck. "Not with you?" "No, I made him stay. He wasn't here when you left." "I thought he was with you." Travis followed Grandpa into the house. Grandpa cracked a beer and slugged it back, his Adam's apple moving under a loose skin as he swallowed. "That means he's been gone for hours," said Travis. "We'd better go look for him." Grandpa took another drink, then looked at Travis for the first time. "He's an old dog, Trav. Old dogs sometimes go away and don't come back." "What do you mean?" Travis's voice cracked high. I mean, he might have left for a reason, and we should leave him be." Travis walked miles through the woods that afternoon, along the roads and fields until after dark. His throat hurt from calling, and his whistle went dry. When he got home, the truck was gone. Maybe Roscoe had come back, hurt or sick, and Grandpa had taken him to the vet. Travis turned on the TV and stared at it, waiting for the sound of truck tires on the gravel. When it finally came, it pulled Travis out of a deep, foggy sleep, and early morning sun filtered in the window. He jumped off the couch and ran out to the porch. Grandpa got out of the truck unsteady. "Where's Roscoe?" asked Travis. "How should I know?" The words shot liquid hot rage surging through Travis. Grandpa had not been to the vet. He'd gone to the bar. Stayed out all night with Roscoe missing. Maybe sick or hurt somewhere. Travis stepped forward hard just as Grandpa grabbed the railing. Grandpa flinched, lost his balance, and fell slow motion off the stair. He landed in a crumple on the gravel. The hot liquid inside Travis turned immediately to cold sludge, the way it did every time he blew and someone ended up on the ground. Grandpa stared up as if he'd never seen Travis before. Then he shook his head and awkwardly pushed himself off the gravel. He limped back to the truck without a look or a word. He got in, slammed the door, started the engine, and left. Travis spent hours in the woods calling again, whistling, looking under bushes. His stomach was a wrench of gut juice, and his mind spun with half-hammered excuses. I didn't touch you. You fell all by yourself. And over it all, he's an old dog, Trav. Old dogs sometimes go away and don't come back. The truck was in the drive when he got home. Roscoe, he called softly as he opened the screen door. Grandpa got up from the couch. He looked like he'd been crawling under bushes himself. White-faced, the skin around his jaw sagging, he picked up his keys from the counter, and his hands shook so much they clanked together. I'm going out for a bit. I didn't find him, said Travis. Don't you even care? Grandpa walked out the door without answering. Travis stared at the refrigerator. Did drinking really make it all go away? As if nothing happened, nothing hurt, and you just don't care? Maybe it was worth a try. He pulled the handle and looked in. Milk, eggs, cheese, a few apples, not a single can of beer. He checked the liquor cabinet, completely empty. No wonder Grandpa had to go out. The house was creepy quiet. No doggy snores, no click-click of toenails or thump of scratching, no slurping in the water dish. Quiet in a way Travis had never heard, not as far back as he could remember. Grandpa always said a good dog needs work, and the night Travis's mom went to the hospital and didn't come back, Roscoe found his job. Travis's dad died in an accident 3 months later, and then Roscoe forgot all about being anyone's dog. He became Travis's mom and dad, and a couple of brothers thrown in. That's what Grandpa said. For almost a month now, Travis had woken up every day with no Roscoe. No mom, no dad, no imaginary brothers. Grandpa had given him up from the first day. He didn't even care. What if Travis disappeared? Oh well, sometimes kids go away and don't come back. Travis kicked a beer can. It landed with a dull tink in the road ahead, and a roar exploded from the ditch on the other side of a driveway. Travis jumped straight sideways and came down eyeball to eyeball with a snarling, mean-eyed dog. Its lip was curled all the way back to show pink and black gums above sharp white teeth. Ooh, hey, easy now. Travis backed away, looking down, sideways, anywhere but directly into those eyes. His body twitched with wanting to run. He forced himself to step slow and willed the dog to stay in its driveway. The dog kept snarling that low-throated growl, its tail pointing straight back. One wrong move and it would start throat ripping. Travis kept talking in a low, easy voice. Sorry I didn't see your driveway there. I know you're just doing your job and whew, you're good at it. Look, I'm leaving, see? Here I go. He didn't take a full breath until he was a good 50 feet away. Then he snuck a look over his shoulder. The dog trotted back up the drive, all relaxed, looking like he'd just gone out to get the mail, and not like he'd been threatening murder. Travis grinned. He knew how that felt. Kablow, snarl, and snap, and then it's over, and hey, did I just bite your leg off? Sorry, I didn't really mean to. A woodpecker hammered nearby, and Travis sucked in a big lungful of crisp air. He stepped into the cornfield, walked down a row far enough that he couldn't see the road, and lay down. The ground under his back was solid, dry, reassuring. The corn enclosed him in green, stalks on either side, the blades forming a shifting ceiling overhead. Maybe that was his problem. He'd been raised by a dog, so he didn't know how to act right around people. Grandpa was no help, that was for sure. In the days after Roscoe left, he was either gone or holed up in his room. After a few days of that, he told Travis that he'd been going to Alcoholics Anonymous and that they were moving. We can't leave. What if Roscoe comes back? Trav, it's been almost a week. He's not coming back. Well, what about that dog that took months to get from Texas to Alaska? He might be doing something like that. And Roscoe got to Texas how? After that, everything rattled by in an unreal kind of nightmare. Packing up, cleaning the place where they'd always lived. At first, Travis refused to help. What if Roscoe came back and they were gone? Grandpa finally called Chuck, the landlord, and asked him to give the new renters their number and keep an eye out for Roscoe. He talked to Travis all the time about one day at a time, and easy does it, and blah, blah, blah. He said over and over that it was high time for things to change. Well, they changed, all right. Travis pushed himself up off the ground. He emerged from the cornfield and looked back toward the snarling dog's driveway. Next time he went by there, he'd have a little bit of something good to eat in his pocket. He turned the other way and kept walking. Velveeta on Saturday. This day started with reality crawling up my face and jabbing me in the eyeballs before I was even awake, reminding me it's all no Calvin weekends. Then I remembered, new job. Connie sent me to the bakery. She uses cookies and donut holes to lure people into the library, and then she hits them over the head with books. I told her I don't read books, and she said, if you work in my library, you do. And I asked her if she was going to fire me, and she shoved a book in my hands. Calvin, your friend Connie is a fanatic, but she gave me $20 for working and a few donut holes, even though I kept running across the street to the laundromat to punch quarters, because when else am I going to do it? After work, I hid the laundry under a towel and headed home, rattling my little red wagon behind me. When I got to the hedges on the library side yard, Travis suddenly apparated in front of me. I spun a round kick to his head, dropped to the ground, swept his feet out from under, all crouching tiger and hidden dragon. Or maybe I just shoved him really hard in the chest. I'm not sure. I was kind of startled. I stood over him and said, holy crapoli, man. Don't jump out at me like that. I just about killed you with my lethal hands. He stood up smiling, like I couldn't have done him a bigger favor than bashing him flat on the cement. I told him I was going to buy him a cowbell so he couldn't sneak up on me, and he lit up so red you could find your way through a dark tunnel by the glow of his face. I have to say it's cute, the way he reds up so fast. Then he got all nosy, asking what was in my wagon. I told him it was contraband from the crystal meth lab and pointed at the library. He asked what was in there, really. Library, I said, pointing to that the big sign in front of the building. Talk about sensitive. He flinched like I just smacked him 12 days from Tuesday. He walked off without even saying goodbye. So to make up for being sarcastic, I called after him and offered up a donut hole. He turned around and stared at that day-old donut hole like I'd offered him rat bait from a garbage can, which kind of ouched my feelings because I was just trying to make up for knocking him over and all. Okay, I'm busted, I said. The donut hole is laced with crystal meth. What are you going to do, arrest me here on the sidewalk? Not without a warrant, buddy. I shoved the bakery bag back in the wagon and started walking. I got about 5 steps away when he called out my name, so of course I had to turn around. I'm not really an undercover cop, he said. We faced off like gunfighters on Main Street, 50 paces apart, staring at each other. He stood there, hands on his pockets, looking like he wouldn't know how to shoot, even if you handed him a .357 snub, like, pull this, written in pink nail polish on the trigger. I'm not really carrying meth, I said. I'm just taking my laundry home. He nodded. I nodded. He gave me one of his little shadow smiles and walked off. Here's the other thing about Travis. He has the prettiest eyes. I'm not sure what color they are. Sometimes I think they're green, but then I think maybe they're brown or even dark blue. I can't get a good look because of how he half shades them with his lids or looks away. Someday I hope to get 10 seconds or so to have a good stare and call them a color.